Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and this is our weekly TV news video, where we obviously talk about the week's TV news, but we also use it to sort of just kind of bookend the end of the week in terms of the channel. Just if any announcements are to be made, any updates to give, that kind of thing, we kind of throw them out there as well. In terms of new stuff this week, I suppose the main thing would be that Game of Thrones came back. Connor and Matt reviewed that, so the review of the first episode of that's up and there to be seen.
Yep.
Was it good? Did you like
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it was pretty good actually.
Oh, nice, nice. Was Ed Sheeran good in that?
That was the worst part. Do you know what? It's actually really irritating. That bit he was there, he sang, and then had one line of dialogue and sat in the scene, and just you couldn't not notice him. It was the absolute worst way to handle a cameo.
Interesting. I seen the controversy throughout the week. People complaining.
It's justified because I think good cameos you don't really you're not distracted from the episode by them being there.
That is fair. But that was about it in terms of new stuff this week. There wasn't anything else really that popped up. I think the only thing worth mentioning is that me and Matt did finish reviewing Glow. We got to the season finale last Sunday, so
How was it?
it was good. It got better as the season went along. It got a little bit deeper than I ever thought it would.
Good to hear.
But ultimately, it was a good fun ride. So I've not officially renewed it yet, but I am really looking forward to whatever season 2 will end up being. So that's pretty much it. If I'm going to do my thing where I tell you what's coming next week that's of interest, although technically it's not next week, it's actually today/tomorrow, depending on when this goes live. Netflix have got a new show called Ozark with Jason Bateman launching. We're actually recording our news a day early because that's launching, so that it doesn't conflict with recording a review of the first episode of that. So you can look forward to that probably after this goes up, but should be relatively sharpish. So you can look out for that. As it's a thriller, a crime, drama thingy. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm hopeful.
Yeah, the early reviews were somewhat positive.
It's I feel like the trailer looked like it had potential, but wasn't guaranteed.
It looked kind of dreary, but that might be like saved by like the actual pacing and style of the scenes when you actually see them in
Yeah,
context. Whereas in a trailer, sometimes you cut together slow-paced scenes, it just kind of feels like there's no momentum.
that's it. Because trailers are kind of designed to be quite fast paced.
Typically, yeah. I think it's smarter in that case where if you just shows a scene, just shows one scene, let the scene
Yeah,
pacing do its own job, and just maybe end with a quick sort of cut to something.
yeah. Netflix do that sometimes, just not as their first trailer.
But hey, that's
So
launching, so you can look forward to that. But that's about it. So we'll get into the news now. It has dawned on me that we are doing this a day early when it happens to be the start of Comic Con this weekend. So in a weirdly neat way, because we actually have a decent amount of news, it means that all of the Comic Con news will be together in the next news video next week.
see, that's nice because it's not split. It always ends up whenever we do this, or if it's the comics podcast, we get half our news one week and half the following, and it's really irritating.
Because we always record it right in the middle of all the news coming out. But so at least this week, that's the one perk. The downside, of course, is that it'll all be a little bit older by the time we actually talk about it next week. But hey,
Yeah.
ups and downs. So let's get to the actual news of this week. So first up, here's a weird one. Very rarely does something get pushed ahead by several months in terms of TV.
Yeah.
Maybe a one-off special or something like that, but a full season of something like moving forward.
It's strange.
So Marvel's Runaways, which is coming from Hulu, that was originally announced for sometime spring 2018.
Yeah, I remember.
Instead, we are getting it on November 21st, all 10 episodes of season 1.
Bastards. That time of
Right,
year is not busy enough.
yeah, right in the busy season. But hey, it'll be a nice active.
Wait, all 10 at once.
Oh, sorry, no, I'll be weekly because it's Hulu. Quite right,
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
right. I just autopilot.
Sorry, you got go ahead of yourself.
I'm thinking of Netflix. I'm thinking of Amazon. Hulu don't do that.
No,
That said,
you made me panic.
they quite often put the first 3 up in the same day. That's been a little trend they've had for the last while. So
Yeah, not a fan of that one.
I could see it 3 in the one day, and then it'll be one a week after that.
Not a
So
fan of that trend because I don't expect it, and then I just go on, and then there's three.
yeah, honestly, that part doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that it really sets you up in this weird pacing. Because even if we split them up one a day for the first 3, and then it's only like 4 days till episode 4, and then it's like, oh, it's a week now to episode 5. Well, this feels like ages. This is so long. Assuming we like it. If we hate it, then that's actually it's like a full week. Nice. Let's enjoy the full week. But yeah, if you like it, because that happened with Handmaid's Tale, where it felt like, oh man, this week is torture.
Yeah, and then it felt like the end came really quick because
Yeah, we were already halfway through the season.
yeah,
Yeah. So there's some weird pacing just in terms of like watching the show, doing that. But hey, it does mean you have a nice little, splurge of content on day one, which I guess is there. I guess it's to inspire people to sign up. Because it's like you don't just sign up for the first episode, you get the first 3, you get a whole night of entertainment, potentially.
yeah, there's value.
Yeah, I guess that's the thinking of it. And it's not that different from like networks putting on a double pilot or something like that at the start of a season.
Yeah.
So there you go. So obviously, news we knew was coming last week. We mentioned it was coming on the Sunday. We have the 13th Doctor.
Yes, interesting.
As Connor wipes his nose with the mic off. Yeah, we have the 13th Doctor, and it was indeed a female. We have the first ever lady Doctor. Jodie Whittaker is being cast. She worked with the new showrunner on Broadchurch specifically. I knew her from that. I also know her from Attack the Block with John Boyega. She was in that. It's probably the first thing I've seen her in. And she's also in an episode of Black Mirror, which we covered all those. She was in the season 1 of Black Mirror, so she's
it's the only thing I've seen her in.
She's popped up in a few things. Obviously, the internet has handled this news with the utmost character.
Of course.
There's been no stupid complaints. There's been no complaint sent to the BBC or anything like that, decrying that there's now bras in the TARDIS and that they should be lynched for such a crime. None of that.
Do you know what the worst part is? Mm-hmm. The BBC had to issue a statement. Did you see that? They had to put out a statement going, "Hey, we hear you, but come on, guys,
grow up."
Basically, yeah,
yeah, pretty much.
Stupid.
It is really stupid. It's like, what changes in your life because there's now a female Doctor? Like what?
Do you know what I don't get? This isn't like a new revelation that it was ever a possibility. I mean, I think it was Tom Baker back in the 80s when he left the role.
Yeah, it was the co-creator wanted a female Doctor at the time.
Yeah, but when he left the role, he said, "I wish luck to my replacement, whoever he or she might be." Like that was his public statement.
No, there was a lot of stories. Apparently, in the 80s, one of the co-creators was actually wanting a female Doctor at the time. Like that's been something that's been in the works now for 30 plus years, and I was hoping we were going to get a female when before Capaldi was announced after Smith. I was hoping for it then.
A lot of people were then.
Obviously, it didn't happen. Obviously, Capaldi turned out to be great, so whatever. But now we have Jodie Whittaker. My only criticism of this casting, I am all for a lady Doctor. My only criticism is that every single thing I've seen her in, she's definitely a fine actress, but everything I've seen her in has been a very serious or more realistic role.
You don't know how she'll pull this off.
I have never seen her do something that's sort of fun and charismatic. It's always been, Black Mirror was a cheating wife who's got a lot of marriage problems. Attack the Block, it was this more kind of down to earth but normal sort of person. Like there was nothing like sort of outrageous about her. And then Broadchurch, she's this grieving mother that her son has died and been killed, so she's just crying all the time in that show, or angry. Like so, I've never seen her do the quick, funny, kind of charismatic banter.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Listen, I'm not actually that familiar. I just the Black Mirror episodes. So I can't really speak to her talent that much, but I think I'm just happy that it was not the easy, safe choice that we feared it was going to be.
I agree.
I'm just glad they've done something different.
I'm glad it's different, and also I think we spoke a while ago about how maybe it was one of Doctor Who reviews, but the new creator wants to do more of a serialized story. So I am really excited about that. I'm kind of sick of all these like kind of standalone throwaway episodes.
I love the work he's done on Who in the past. I think Torchwood is fantastic. Those first 2 seasons anyway are fantastic. 3's pretty good, but I think he had a good direction and an interesting take, and I think it'll be interesting to see if any of that carries over into the main show now.
I also like Torchwood. I didn't realise he had done that.
Yeah, he was the showrunner for that.
I like the first season of Broadchurch. I've not made a point of watching 2 and 3 yet. I need to get around to that at some point. But it's really funny actually that in Broadchurch he had Tennant, who was an old doctor, and they had what was going to be his new doctor in the same show.
Olivia Colman was in Broadchurch as well, right? Because she was one of the big ones rumored to be the replacement for Smith. When there was like, oh, maybe there's be a female one. She makes
a lot of sense actually. I can see her.
I can see her doing it. I'd be down for that choice if that comes up next.
I'm just thinking of her in Hot Fuzz. Just a little bit of that, not completely what her character is in Hot Fuzz, but just a little bit of that.
Yeah, I really like her in Peep Show as well. Like, she's really good.
I can see her doing it, and as I say, I mean, I have the utmost confidence that if Whittaker was cast and they've seen something in her, they've seen her.
Yeah, I have no reason to doubt.
Yeah, so I have no reason to doubt. But that'd be my only criticism of it is I've never seen her do that type of character. But that's not to say that she won't knock it out of the park, because she very potentially will, and hopefully she does. So
exactly.
It's good news, and you know, for people saying, "Oh, what's next? A female James Bond?" You know what? Sure, do a female James Bond. I don't care. Bond sucks anyway. I'm good with it. It might actually make Bond interesting for a change. So let's move on. I didn't need to go there. I just wanted to throw shade at James Bond. How can I work in Lord of the Rings later to throw shade at that? I need to pick all the popular things that I don't like at some point in this video. And
Game of Thrones is easy because it's on now.
Game of Thrones is easy, yeah. Oh, and there's even a news story later on that naturally segues into.
Of course, there is.
Segues into that, to be honest. But next up, now I don't. These types of news stories pop up a lot, right? These are the ones where it'll say such and such writer or director or producer has signed a deal with certain network, a production company for TV, where they're going to now develop things for that network. And typically, I don't bother putting these in because I'd rather just wait until they actually announce something that's in development with them, and just and talk about that rather than just saying, "Oh, X name's attached." And often it's because the names are usually people who have just done other TV shows, and the names themselves aren't actually that notable or recognizable. Yeah. But when I hear Alex Garland, who is the writer-director of Ex Machina and the upcoming writer-director of Annihilation, or he's the writer-director of the upcoming Annihilation, he's not the upcoming writer. You know what I mean, right? When I read that he signed a deal with FX Productions to develop new shows, I go, "Oh, that sounds interesting."
That does sound interesting. I think he's a great writer, and Ex Machina proved he can be a great director too.
Yes, and it certainly. I mean, there's no details about what he's going to develop, which is typically why I leave these, but. I am very excited by this development. It's something to look out for, is maybe what FX are going to start announcing.
He's one of those talents where the concept doesn't really matter. I'll probably check out whatever it is because he's attached.
Oh yeah, they could announce a show about a sentient lump of shit, but if Alex Garland's name's attached to it, I'm going to give it a go.
It'll probably be pretty good.
It'll be depressed because you can never get rid of the smell. The shit. I mean, not Alex Garland.
Yeah. No, I realized. It took me a second to process it.
The sentient shit is what I'm talking about. Not Alex Garland.
Does it have a nose then?
Yes. If it's I'm thinking kind of like the cars from the Pixar movies where they get an eyes and a nose.
So you're thinking basically the shit emoji.
Yes. Yeah. That, but living.
Cool. I'd watch it.
Aye. And from the top down, it's the Ubisoft logo. Right, so exciting potential news there. Next up, we have a bit of casting for a show that I wanted to remind you existed. It's a Netflix show. It's called The Haunting of Hill House, which might not be the title when they actually bring it out, admittedly, because after all, the movie is called The Haunting. That's been made out of a couple of times. But Carla Gugino has been cast in it, and my cat is being a pest. But yeah, so it's 10 episodes, Netflix, straight to series. They've already ordered it. But she's been cast. She's done a couple hours. I think the most notable name, and we knew this already, but I just kind of wanted to bring this casting up too, because I had forgotten this existed. So I seen the name, I was like, oh yeah, they're doing this. This is cool.
Until you mentioned it, it's like, oh yeah.
But Mike Flanagan's the one who's running it and presumably directing a lot of it, if not all of it. He did Oculus, Hush, and the second Ouija movie. So he's pretty good. Like he actually took Ouija, which was a terrible movie, and made a pretty decent prequel out of it. The ending lets it down a little bit because I had to connect to the first movie, but up until then it was pretty decent.
No, that's a shame. I've only seen Oculus, but I thought it was pretty good.
Oculus,
some problems, but it was good.
I liked it. I didn't know how to end. Would be my complaint.
Yeah.
Hush is definitely his best movie. I recommend checking out Hush.
Yeah, I did mean to check that out. I just never got around to it.
Interestingly, he's also he's already worked with Gugino recently for a movie that's not out yet, which is a straight to Netflix original movie, and it's based on a Stephen King's book called Gerald's Game. Have you heard of that book?
I have heard of the book. Yeah, I've not read it.
But apparently he's directed that, and that's coming soon.
Cool.
So,
another thing Netflix are sneaking by us.
Yeah. This is actually, it's funny because Christopher Nolan, he was being interviewed about Netflix or just various things, and he mentioned that he's not a big fan of the Netflix kind of fighting the old cinema distribution. And I get where he's coming from because he's a big advocate. He loves the theatre going experience. He loves going to the movies. That's a big thing he loves. So I get that he doesn't want that to die. But one of the key things I actually think he's got kind of a point with is that Netflix, I feel like, don't actually give their movies that much spotlight. Yeah, they just kind of spurt them out, and there's a lot of them that are quite good, and you go, oh, you should watch that, but it's all word of mouth. There's no grand sort of release. Everyone go and check out.
No, it is. I think it's maybe they know because they've got such a massive install base, they can kind of rely on word of mouth because they know if people check it out, people tend to tell people mention it on social media. It gets trending on Twitter, people see it and go check it out. It kind of does their marketing for them. They don't need to do a lot of it.
It lacks the prestige though.
It does, and like you said, they've had some very notable movies. Beast with No Nation was the first one that really stood out, I think, as being.
That was the first one they did.
Yeah, was that the first one that they did?
Yeah.
And really? Okay.
Ever since then, it's basically. I've got a cat hair everywhere now. That cat's.
But I was just saying that one was had awards acclaim.
Well, yeah, they were kind of ramping that one up, and they gave it a very, very limited theatrical run.
Yeah, I think they have to show it somewhere just so they can get the awards.
Goddamn cat! He's causing chaos wherever he goes, and he's not leaving me alone. Go away. Anyway, so yeah, I do think it's an issue where they just kind of fart their movies out with little to no fanfare. Even Okja, which I've still not got around to seeing. I do want to watch that. Even that, I kind of felt like it just that got more attention than a lot of their movies, but most of them get.
That's got big names behind it.
Even compared to their TV shows, though, I feel like their TV shows get a little bit of build, a little bit of push.
Hey, Stranger Things got a Super Bowl advert.
Exactly. And I feel like their movies get no attention, so it's maybe something Netflix could look at to try and give them a bit of limelight. Maybe put them out on a different day, maybe make Monday movie day.
Yeah.
A Friday's TV show day, and maybe give them a bit of prestige, give them a bit of advertising, and.
No, I agree with that because he mentioned in that interview that Amazon have a 90-day window, which I didn't know about with their stuff. So if they put a theatrical film, they give it 90 days in the theater before it goes to their service. Yeah,
even if it goes straight to the service after, rather than having a window regular movies have this few months before they go to
where you can't see it in the theaters, but you can't see it at home.
Yeah. Which is really just there to encourage people to go see it in the movies because you won't be able to see it for months and months if you don't.
Right, exactly.
Although that's getting shorter and shorter as time's went on.
It is.
I remember the fuss that when it hit 3 months and movie bits studios were all like, what? Oh, that's only 3 months. What this is ludicrous. Oh, not the movie studio, sorry, the cinema chains. Obviously the movie studio is the ones doing it, but aye. Anyway, Haunting a Hill House. I'm down for it. Just reminding everyone that exists. I really like the original movie.
Never seen it.
Good, creepy old school horror movie from the 60s. And I'm curious to see how it goes over 10 episodes. I can kind of see them doing it actually because it's kind of a slow build, so I could kind of easily see them doing it that way and letting. Yeah, I think it could be 10 hours long. I don't see why it couldn't. Anyway, jumping over to Amazon, and they've got a bit of casting. Again, it's kind of notable. I'm kind of reminding you that this show exists. But David O. Russell's making a show at Amazon that Robert De Niro and Julianne Moore are both in. Michael Shannon has just been cast in it.
Okay.
Now, this show is still untitled, and the only description we have for it is it's described as a mafia crime series, but that is all they're saying. They are keeping it top secret.
Yeah, I remember this from... It was a while ago we heard about this now, right?
Yeah, and also, just to remind you, Amazon has greenlit this for 2 8-episode seasons. So we're getting 2 seasons at least.
Yeah. I'm not surprised that they do that, because obviously when you've got that talent involved, that level of people, you have to just lock them down.
You want to lock them down. Although, it's funny actually, because Robert De Niro's in this weird place where he's I mean, obviously he's still a big name, but he's kind of past his prime. Like, I feel like he's probably more available. Michael Shannon's actually the one that I feel like you have to lock down. He's probably he's really busy.
Shannon and Russell as well, I think.
Oh yeah, as a director, yeah, he'll be a lot busier these days. So, all right, let's get to the first meaty thing. There's a lot of meat actually, surprising amount of meat. But HBO has given a series order to Confederate, which is from the creators of Game of Thrones, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. And this is going to be controversial.
It already is.
I've
seen some of the controversy.
Before I even describe what it is. So, but you could probably guess from the title, at least to a point, Confederate. Yeah. It chronicles the events leading to the Third American Civil War. The series takes place in an alternate timeline where the southern states have successfully seceded from the Union, giving rise to a nation in which slavery remains legal and has evolved into modern institution. The story follows a broad swath of characters on both sides of the Mason-Dixon demilitarized zone: freedom fighters, slave hunters, politicians, abolitionists. I'm terrible with that word.
Abolitionists.
That's actually easier to say. Yeah, good. Sometimes you just need to hear it back before you go for it. Journalists and the executives of a slave-holding conglomerate and the families of people in their thrall. Yeah, I couldn't see how this might cause a stir.
I can see why, but I'm going to defend it a little bit.
Of course you are.
No, just in the sense that Man in the High Castle exists, right?
Yes.
And quality aside, because we know how we feel about that, I don't think
at best.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with the concept of an alternate history showing and.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the concept of an alternate history. I think the issues here is I think if this was coming from black creative people, right? If this was coming from that side of the line, I think this would be a very interesting dynamic, because it'd be, but coming from these guys, especially since every bit of the controversy I've seen, at least online over these last couple of days about this, is that the concerns aren't just because of what the concept is, it's because how these people specifically have handled certain things in Game of Thrones. They're worried about how they actually handle the material. As I understand it, whenever anything sensitive like that comes up, they have the subtlety of a jackhammer. And
to be fair, just in that, like, that's not just relegated to that in Game of Thrones. There isn't much subtlety in general in that show. So, just putting that out there.
Fair. I have to admit, though, there is zero part of my body that kind of really wants to watch this. This feels kind of just unpleasant in every single possible way. And I know you could compare it to Handmaid's Tale and say, well, how's that different from Handmaid's Tale, which is looking at this alternate timeline where these different things happened, and it's a certain group of people being marginalised in the worst possible way. And okay, right, you've got a point. You do have a point. But this one just feels a little bit more real. And it also, I think a big problem with this as well is I can almost imagine certain types of people watching this as a fantasy.
Sure, that's always a danger, though, isn't it? Like that's a danger with Handmaid's Tale as well. Like, some people might go, "Yeah, I want that." I mean, they'd be wrong.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
But...
Yeah, I'm sure for any type of thing. I'm sure there's people who watch Human Centipede 2. There'll be one sick bastard who goes, "Oh, I wish this was real." There'll be one. There'll always be one.
Guaranteed, yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of interested. I'm interested to see how it's. I mean, I admit it could be done terribly, and it could come off atrocious.
This reminds me to, and it's not exactly the same, but remember how before Speechless came out, and we thought, oh, this could be absolutely, this could be so poor taste, because that's about a kid who's disabled, and it was a comedy, and we're like, okay, depending on what the humor is here, if this is not handled with the right tact, with the right attitude, because I can see how this could be used to show a lot of actual themes. This could be a proper science fiction where it points out. But here's the beauty of science fiction: you get to do all these messages, all these themes, all these ideas without making it so blatantly the exact thing you're talking about.
No, I agree. I get that.
And it's, I don't know, there's just something about it. Now, admittedly, the fact that I don't like Game of Thrones and think it's kind of boring also puts me off this, because it's the same people.
That is fair.
Right,
yeah, I can't argue with that.
So first and foremost, there's that. And then the concept, as much as I can see the potential of good things that could come out of it, I think there's a greater chance of all the bad things that could come out of it. I feel like there's, if you're looking at the possibilities, right, on a scale, the bad side, where this could go wrong, and where this could be offensive, where this could not have the tact that it should have, thump. And then you've got a couple of things on the light side where if they hit the right sweet spot, where it's satirical, where it's pointing out the right kind of things, where it's not being exploitative, because I think that's the biggest concern I have, is that, especially given how violent Game of Thrones is, there's scenes in that with rape and things like that, where there's all these big serious things happening. I can very much see this being this constant, really bad shit happening without any story to really give it the weight or back it up. And it could almost feel like it is just this constant barrage of, here's horrible things happening to people, just to make you feel like shit.
That's fair, and it's definitely a strong possibility. I won't argue that at all, because it may very well end up being that. But I am interested, because if they can pull it off, I think it would be a really interesting TV show. I mean, again, if they can pull it off. I don't know if they can.
It is a mighty big if.
It is a big if.
This is the kind of thing. It's like, to compare it to Get Out, which was a really good movie that came out this year. Get Out's the sort of movie where, had that came from a white director or a white writer, right? In this case, it's the same person wrote and directed it, but let's say it came from a white creative force, right? And I seen the trailer for that, I'd be like, oh, like, I would feel uncomfortable about that idea coming from a white team.
But what if you watched the same trailer, but if you didn't know who it was from? Would you feel differently just once you learned?
Actually, yes, because I did. I didn't know who it was from when I first saw the trailer, and I kind of felt like this is a bad idea until I learned who was making it, and then I went, okay, right, this is more interesting now. I legitimately felt that way.
Fair enough. Did they not put his name in the trailer? I thought it'd been a big enough name.
They did, but I didn't know his name. So.
Oh, okay.
My familiarity before that movie with Kay and Peele was limited to their appearance in some of Fargo, and I didn't know their names.
Fair enough.
I have since seen some of their sketches, really funny stuff. The thing about calling their wife a bitch, really good funny skit. But I legitimately thought, oh, this is, I don't know how I feel about this when I first saw the trailer, and then I saw who was making it, and I thought, okay, right, I'm interested in this now. This is coming from the right perspective. This, I'm worried about.
No, it's fair. Like, worry is definitely healthy and probably a fair reaction. But I can't help but be interested at the same time. Just on the possibility that it turns out good. Because if it does turn out good, I think there's something great in there.
So next up, we have Picnic at High Rock, which isn't technically new news in the sense that it was already announced for Australia on their Foxtel channel, but Amazon have acquired rights to it for, I'm not sure if it's the rest of the world or if it's just for the US. It's not very clear from the way it's phrased. But yeah, so Picnic at High Rock obviously is a book. It was famously made into a movie in the 70s, director Peter Weir in Australia. Pretty good movie, actually. But yeah, so Natalie Dormer's in it. She's playing the headmistress. It's about... there's a description. I was just going to say it from memory because I've seen the movie, but I'll just read what they've put. So, Picnic at High Rock is about the mysterious disappearances of 3 schoolgirls and 1 teacher on Valentine's Day in 1900, as in actual the year 1900. The complex interwoven narrative follows a subsequent investigation and the event's far-reaching impact on the students, families, and staff of Appleyard College and the nearby township. So it's definitely a mystery. I will say, just from my movie knowledge, admittedly, this is obviously going to be episodes and episodes, so I don't know if it'll be handled a little bit differently, if there'll be more to it. But certainly for the movie, it's very much a mystery where it's not about the investigation per se. At least from what I remember of the movie, it's mostly dealing with the effects of how it affects all the other girls and the other teachers after it's happened.
I can see that working better for TV because you can do like an episode on each person.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, but I definitely remember not being super obsessed with giving you concrete answers for everything. So, but then again, the TV show might be different because they've got more time. So, they're like, let's do these different things.
Could do both, yeah.
Let's do a subplot where we actually have detectives going around and investigating things. But I certainly remember it being more focused on the actual girls and the teachers because it's a private girls' school. It's all girls that go to school.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, but that's like sounds interesting.
Sounds interesting. Yeah, I'm down for that. Do we have a date?
No.
All right. I didn't realise Natalie Dawn was old enough to play a headmistress.
Next year. Well, I mean, the life expectancy was a lot younger then, I guess. So.
Well, that's true.
So I guess 30-ish is enough for that time period. She was on Game of Thrones, which I think's boring. Twice.
Nice.
Twice. To be fair, I didn't even think of that myself. The actual article says Game of Thrones star Natalie Dormer. So I was like, I can.
Did you know she was in Game of Thrones?
I did, but I mean, I didn't know that. I don't know if I would have thought of that first though.
What do you think of her first in like?
Oddly, her like one scene in the first Captain America movie is the first place I remember from. She was in the Hunger Games movies as well, though. She was in that shitty horror movie last year. Don't know. She's kind of an actress who I like, even though she's in a lot of things that I don't actually care about that much.
No, that's fair enough.
It's weird.
Like, because Game of Thrones is definitely where I think of first if I think of her. But obviously, with you not having seen her in that, I was just wondering where your mind went.
Honestly, the first place my mind goes is a gif of her eating an apple on a swing.
It's a good gif. I've seen that.
Because it's just, I don't know, there's something mesmerising about that gif for some reason.
Yeah.
But like that's the first thing that pops out in my head. So I don't know, maybe she'll eat some apples on some swings.
Natalie Dormer of GIF fame.
Of GIF fame. And Picnic at Hanging Rock. It's a picnic. That is an ample opportunity to be on a swing eating an apple.
Plenty of apples.
So let's move on. Let's move on to. Here's an interesting. So we announced, we didn't announce, but we talked about the announcement of Umbrella Academy last week from Netflix, and that comes from Universal Cable Productions. Now, funnily enough, we're going to have a lot of Universal Cable Productions development stuff to talk about for the next little bit. But the first little chunk is actually them sort of reaffirming their partnership with Dark Horse Comics, or actually Dark Horse Entertainment, the company's called, who are doing Umbrella Academy with them for Netflix. But they've actually renewed their first look agreements with them, and they're developing a bunch of stuff from Dark Horse.
This could be interesting.
So we have 4 things that they have confirmed to be in development here, along with something they had already announced. So first up, we have Mind MGMT.
Ooh, I've read the first chunk of that. It's very good.
Oh, have you? Which comes from Matt Kent, his name is. It follows a true crime writer searching for the truth behind a mysterious airline flight who discovers... Mysterious airline flight? That's a weird sentence.
Yeah, that's weird phrasing.
Is that... Does something happen on the flight?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was a bunch of people disappear.
Right, okay, right. On its own, that doesn't sound... It's like, why is it mysterious? What's mysterious about this airline? Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, so yeah, it follows a true crime writer searching for the truth behind a mysterious airline flight, who discovers a secret government agency of spies with psychic abilities Henry Lime, the former top agent, has gone rogue and is working to investigate and dismantle the organisation. So that sounds like potential TV material.
Yeah.
Next up, Flutter, also based on a comic, is about teenage shapeshifter who turns herself into a boy to get the straight girl that she has a crush on.
Okay.
It mentions further up, because there was like a sort of like summary paragraph that mentions them all quickly. It mentions that's an acclaimed LGBTQ comic.
I can see why.
Yeah, makes sense. Given that, I actually think that sounds like a really fun idea.
Yeah. No, I do too.
There's a lot of questions about like tricking the person. Like,
Yeah.
obviously
There's like it could be handled wrong very easily.
There's some consent issues if she happens to win over the straight girl as the boy.
Definitely.
But I do think it sounds like an interesting idea. So,
and it's oddly, there was that news story just this week. Did you see this about the woman who pretended to be a man to her best friend, and then had sex with her with a strap on, and she got convicted like this week.
Well,
so
okay.
yeah.
All right, yeah, fair. I did not hear about this, but yeah, obviously tricking a sexual partner into the sex is a form of not consent. Outright rape, let's say. I'm just trying to avoid the harsh language, but that's what it is.
It is, yeah.
And then the next two are both based on podcasts, which Dark Horse own the rights to. So, this is because you probably thought when I said the last one, I said it was based on a comic as well. You thought, of course, it's based on a comic. It's Dark Horse.
I didn't realize they did other things.
But no, apparently they have other things. Tanis, or Tanis actually, one N, so I guess it's Tanis, follows Nick Silver on his search to unravel what he thinks might be the last great mystery of the internet age.
Does it say what that mystery is?
It doesn't say what the mystery is. They really could have done with more information
these are really
in these.
poor descriptions.
It does say that Tanis is what happens when the lines of science fiction, or what science and fiction start to blur. So, it's kind of weird. It doesn't actually tell us what that mystery is, but it sounds
kind
okay.
Of interested based on the premise, but I would have liked to know the mystery.
There's a little bit at the top mention. No, it just says it's based on the hit podcast at the top. No. That was useless. And then the other one, which is also based on a podcast, is called The Bright Sessions. It is a science fiction drama that follows a mysterious therapist and her unique set of patients, each struggling with a supernatural ability.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
That does sound pretty good. I'm assuming both of these are fictional podcasts, where they pretend they're real, but they're a fictional story.
I'm just looking at the tennis one. In the first episode of Tanis, our host Nick Silver wonders if the internet age might contain one last great mystery, an ancient myth known as Tanis. His exploration into the enigmatic Tanis begins by asking the seemingly simple question, what is it? The answers he soon discovers are far more complicated.
Oh, so even that, I mean...
Yeah, so it's the idea of...
It's a myth.
Everyone can know everything because of the internet, so how do you have a mystery?
Okay, right, okay, that's what Tanis is.
I think that's kind of what it is, yeah. So the mystery is, what is the mystery? Is
that one fictional? Because that one might not be. That one sounds like it could be actually just someone...
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay. Whatever, there you go. So there's some Dark Horse stuff in development with Universal Kill Productions. They also had previously announced that they're working on Harrow County. I vaguely remember talking about this when it first came up. It's a book that's written by Cullen Bunn. So, there you go. So there's a bunch of shows in development, and they potentially sound interesting, although those descriptions did leave a little bit to,
Yeah, could improve on those, but I'm interested in all of them to varying degrees.
Left a little bit to desire. Now, there is more Universal Kill Productions later, but they were a different sort of batch. Those were all Dark Horse ones. Okay. So next up, we're back to Amazon, that is giving a 2-season order to Homecoming, a new drama series starring Julia Roberts. Now, we have heard of this before when it was first in development, and because they opened with Julia Roberts in the name, I was like, I don't remember what this is. And then I read other details about it, and like, oh, I do remember what this is. I remember the plot, and I remember that Sam Esmail is involved in writing it.
Oh, this one. Okay.
And all of a sudden, my interest skyrocketed through the roof. So, Homecoming is an adaptation of the fictional podcast. A lot of fictional podcasts are getting adapted. This is the new thing.
It is.
Maybe we should do a fictional podcast. Maybe we can make some money off of it.
What are we doing with this bollocks?
Let's do a fictional podcast about the spread of the ginger.
Down.
Night of the Living Ginger. Anyway, so yeah, official podcast of the same name, which only started this past November, apparently. The podcast is about staffers at a secret government agency where some are desperate to rejoin civilian life. The political thriller centers on a caseworker at a secret government facility, her supervisor, and a soldier. Roberts is in talks to play the caseworker.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm interested in checking out some fictional podcasts in general. I'm wondering, are they just kind of like audio dramas? Because obviously before
so.
audio dramas were kind of reserved for those who could do it, because it was.
Yeah,
but
now
anyone has the ability to do that.
I imagine it's probably a mixture. I imagine some of them though are presented kind of like the audio version of found footage, where it's the person
like narrating the story almost.
Or no. I mean, I'm sure there's some that are like that, where it's just like reading a story. But I'm sure some of them present it as if, no, this is a real podcast, but all the stuff that he's talking about is made up.
Yeah.
You know, so he still does it like, oh, this week on, we're going to talk about what happened in alien news this week, but it's all made up alien news, for example.
That's true.
But they'll still present it as a podcast show.
Yeah, because I did start.
There'll be a mix, I'm sure. I'm sure there'll be some that are
I can't remember what it was called. It was recommended to me. That was basically just an audio drama on a space station. I was like, it's pretty cool.
But is that actually different people playing the parts?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Because I'm quite into audio dramas in general. I don't know if you're interested in them.
I'm not super familiar with them. I'm not against them by nature, though. I don't see anything, any reason why I wouldn't enjoy a good audio drama.
Yeah, but interesting to see them kind of getting adapted now.
I kind of like the idea of one person doing it and just pretending he's on like a radio show, and maybe he has other actors for the radio to call-ins, but
yeah, like the guests. Yeah,
okay, but it's like a radio show during like the apocalypse and like stuff's starting to go bad, and it builds up for like a season of shows.
You have to see if it's been done.
I'm sure that has, but that seems like such an obvious idea to do.
Seems like it, but you never know. If
it hasn't, I'm copyrighting that right now, you bastards. One else. Don't you dare. It's on record. Unfortunately, I cannot act, though. That's the big problem with all those
That is a big problem, isn't it?
I have to get someone else to actually do the pretending. Alright, let's move on. So, FilmNation Entertainment has got involved in its first television project. They're the film company behind Arrival and The Big Sick, so they have credits in other mediums. So yeah, they've sold a project to Amazon. A lot of Amazon, actually. This week's news.
Sure, Amazon we've been saying this recently, but they're starting to get interesting.
Yeah, they're ramping up.
The projects that are interesting aren't quite coming yet.
I feel there's been a few. We've got the Nicholas Winding Refn one.
Yeah, I just mean, but they're still a way out yet.
Oh, right, sure.
The ones that we're actually interested in from them.
But in terms of development, they're doing a lot more, it seems like.
Oh, development, yeah.
So, yeah, this is based on a book, as a lot of stuff seems to be right now. It's based on a book by Jardine Lebert. I'm going to say that. It's called Whittaker. I don't know if this is going to be our sort of thing, but I will give you the series is a love story that follows a young couple who battles the class divide and social conformity in 1980s New York. Now, that was all it told me in the article about the TV development, for the show. So I went to where did I go? I think it was Amazon. I went to look at the book. What's the description of the book on Amazon? I just wanted more. I wanted more than that, and arguably I got too much. But here's some of it. Right, when Elise Perez meets Jamie Hyde on a desolate winter afternoon, fate implodes, and neither of their lives will ever be the same. Although they are next-door neighbours in New Haven, they come from different worlds. Elise grew up in a housing project without a father and didn't graduate from high school. Jamie is a junior at Yale and heir to a private investment bank fortune and beholden to high family expectations. Nevertheless, the attraction is instant, and what starts out as a sexual obsession turns into something greater, stranger, and impossible to ignore. And then there's like another paragraph, but basically they move to New York and it's basically their cultures clashing as they try to be a couple. That's basically the gist of it.
Yeah, I'm not that interested. I don't think it'll be bad. It could be good, but not for me.
It could be good. Depending on how they tackle it, it could surprise us and actually be something that makes us interested.
It could be. I feel unlikely.
The concept on its own, admittedly, isn't exactly anything that particularly piques my interest. It's a romance in 1980s New York. It's just Just,
Yeah, he said I'm kind of starting to tune out.
but then again, that could be like, imagine if that was like if you described like Before Sunrise to me. There's, oh, it's the start of a romance in the streets of Paris. I'd be like, oh, that sounds terrible. But Before Sunrise is a fantastic film, and everyone should watch it. So
Yeah, I mean, like you can describe anything badly, but as I guess your point there.
exactly, I'm saying that even the concepts that aren't typically up your alley,
Can be good, yeah.
made with the right hand behind the camera, can do wonderful things. All
It's
right.
true.
So we're heading back over to Universal Cable Productions, and they've basically announced a bunch of things they've got in development. Like they had an event of some kind where they announced the slate of development stuff that's going on.
They wanted to get out before the Comic-Con news cycle.
Possibly, very possibly. So first up, Catherine Hardwicke is going to executive produce an adaptation of a book series called The Raven Cycle. This is for sci-fi. It makes sense some of these will be for sci-fi because it's Universal, of course.
Yeah.
But as we seen earlier, some of their stuff's going to Netflix, so it's not also feasible that they could go to elsewhere. Based on the 4 rural fantasy novels of the same name, The Raven Cycle tells the story of the 17-year-old Blue Sergeant who becomes involved with a group of 4 privileged private schoolboys on a quest to find the source of a mythical and mysterious power hidden deep in rural Virginia.
Doesn't sound like your sort of thing, to be honest.
Hey, I'll watch a pilot. I'm not against trying a pilot.
Very brave of you.
It's not your sort of thing either.
I mean, I'm down for it. But I kind of read. I've read a lot of those sorts of books.
What sort of
kind
book
of
are we
fit.
talking about? I don't
Yeah,
understand
like
what you mean
that.
by
It's kind of like that teen fantasy. They've all got the very similar sort of covers with, it's like a white cover with then just an image on it. You'll have seen them in a bookshop. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm generally vaguely interested in pretty much any of those.
I'm vaguely uninterested in pretty much any of those.
Exactly.
But, again, right hand behind the camera, who's to say?
Yeah.
Next up, they're also working on a adaptation of Sirens of Titan, in which Dan Harmon's involved. So that was a name that's noteworthy. The story follows Malachi Constant, the richest man in 22nd century America. He possesses extraordinary luck, which he attributes to divine favour and has used to build upon his father's fortune. He becomes the centre point of a journey that takes him from Earth to Mars in preparation for interplanetary war, to Mercury with another Martian survivor of that war, back to Earth to be pillarized as a sign of man's displeasure with his arrogance, and then finally to Titan, where he again meets the man ostensibly responsible for the turn of events that have befallen him. That was intentionally very awkwardly written. The point being that he has a very long and ridiculous journey that darts around before it gets to its end. Sure, I'm down to try this.
Sounds interesting.
It definitely sounds like there's a comic twist to it. There's comedy involved with this, which makes sense given that you've got Dan Harmon involved, who is a very funny guy and does a lot of comedy stuff.
Yep.
But I'm down. No mention of a network though. This could end up anywhere. This is the sort of thing that could be on Sci-Fi, but I could also see it popping up in any of the streaming services.
Yeah, my instinct went to Sci-Fi, but it's not guaranteed.
They specified the last one for Sci-Fi, and they're specifying the next one for Sci-Fi, so maybe that means that they've got other thoughts in mind for this one.
Yeah, or they just haven't decided yet, I guess.
Possibly. But no, it sounds interesting. So yeah, it goes to Mars, then Mercury, then back to Earth, then to Titan. So he gets around. Sounds potentially very funny though. The idea of having this arrogant guy in the centre of all this who's kind of up his own ass, that could be entertaining.
Yeah.
Alright, so next up, again, Universal Cable Productions are developing an adaptation. There's another novel, all these novel adaptations, of a post-apocalyptic novel called Sand for Sci-Fi. The series, which would be an action drama set in the world ravaged by ecological devastation, savage winds, and shifting dunes. So it's a sand world, essentially. At its centre is a family who makes their way in this world as sand divers, the elite few who can travel deep beneath the desert floor to retrieve mysterious and valuable relics lost to the dust.
I like the sound of it.
I do like the sound of it. It was
Sounds
making me,
like it could have a great atmosphere.
it does. I was getting a little bit of Dune from it, maybe a little bit of Mad Max, kind of mixing those
Yeah,
together a
yeah.
little bit, and then yeah, I like the industrial side of it. Like there's like these people who actually have a job with the sand, and that's kind of they're special because they can do this in the sand compared
I'm
to
just
everyone
picturing
else.
them in like, like old school deep sea scuba diving suits.
I can see that. That was not where my first thought honestly went to like someone in a duster with goggles on, like walking through a sandstorm.
See, I get that for the above ground, but when they're going down, I'm
Yeah, yeah,
picturing like an old school scuba.
yeah. Ah, sure. I think it'll be more on top though than
Probably,
diving. I imagine. I imagine most of the plot will be up top side while they're
probably.
interacting with other people who want
I
stuff
w
they're getting and
If that is
whatnot.
the case, dusters and goggles are kind of an essential.
Yeah, and a big sort of creepy hat. I'm
Yeah,
picturing it. It's basically the opening to Hardware. If you've seen that movie,
I
which
haven't.
I know you haven't, because you've hell, there's proper movies you've not seen,
That's true. That's
and
true.
not
But
that to
I've seen some shite instead.
not to knock down hard. I actually quite like Hardware. I don't mean to disparage that, but in terms of a list of movies that someone should have seen, that's quite low down the list. Whereas Connor didn't see Back to the Future until his 20s, so
No, this is true, but then there is some stuff that I probably shouldn't have seen before a lot of this other stuff that I have just seen for whatever reason, and that could have quite easily fallen into that.
Universal Kilo Productions have also optioned another book. They've optioned another book, or it's actually a series of books, a science fantasy series called Lord of Light. After humans moved to a new planet, technological disparities allowed privileged few to assume the names and latelessnesses of deities and rule over the common people. Tired of the system, a former god, in quotation marks, wages war against the unjust regime.
Sounds great.
This sounds so high concept.
It does, but this is probably the one I'm most excited for so far.
You have to admit, it's a pretty interesting list of new shows in development
It is. I mean,
so
I'm
far.
down for all of them, but I think this one so far, this one's like, yeah, that's the one I want.
It does sound interesting. Yeah, it's basically the like one good person in the sort of hierarchy decides to help the oppressed and fights back. It's a very simple plot in that sense when you think of it, compared to other similar plots.
Yeah,
But you have this extra layer added on where
but
the people in charge are making themselves gods with technology.
which that's the part that fascinates me. Like you could have like the gods fighting, and like you could have all the elements at war with each other, because presumably they can control those sorts of things as well with this to go along with the god persona.
It depends, maybe. But are they fighting? Are they all just happy
I
gods?
imagine some of them will be fighting.
It depends. I can see them not starting that way. I can see that being a thing that maybe, like at the end of season one, that's where, oh shit, there's a
Maybe.
war starting.
But we've got this one god, right? We've got this one on this side.
Former god.
Oh, that's true. Did he give it all up?
I don't know what to say. I mean, I would. It's hard to say. Maybe he's still pretending to be a god, but secretly he's doing all this, or maybe he actually has disgraced and he's fallen
I'm
from
definitely
grace.
interested though.
I don't know. But yeah, it's potential. This sounds like it's not as far along because they've just optioned the book as opposed to the others who have got like some writers and creatives attached to them.
Yeah.
So this one could be a little while away. Speaking of a little while away, this is not a new one. Last year at the same sort of set of announcements, they announced something that we did. I remember speaking about, which was Welcome to Hitchcock, the anthology that sort of tackled various Hitchcock properties in a new light in one series. So they followed up on that announcement by saying they've hired a writer. Oh damn! I was going to put this on the screen for this because I wanted to show you how intimidating this name was. That said, it's not actually. I don't actually think it's actually that hard to say. Once I actually sort of thought about it, it's Evan Spiliotopoulos. Spiliotopoulos. That's how you say it. It's not actually that hard a name, but it looks intimidating because it's long. Spiliotopoulos.
Okay.
It's intimidating to
That's-
look
that,
at,
That sounds right.
but it's not actually that bad. Once I actually tried to say it, oh, it's not actually that bad. Spiliotopoulos.
But that does sound intimidating. I'm just trying to find it just to see it for myself. Oh, there it is.
Alright, we'll have a look at
Oh
it.
yeah. That does look hard to say at first glance.
Aye. It's intimidating to look at, but not actually that bad. Which makes a change. So anyway, so yeah, it's inspired based on the director's Hitchcock's works, and it'll be retellings of his classic tales. They're saying whether that means, I'm going to guess that means one per season, and they're going to like flesh them out. Because I feel like if you're just going to do one per episode, then you're not
You're
really.
not going to do it justice, are you?
Well, you're not going to do it justice, and you're also just like, well, you're just basically remaking all the movies without doing anything else. Like you're just, if you're, even if they're 2 hour long each, right? I say it's like long episodes, kind of like Sherlock or something like that. You're basically just doing remakes of the movies. Whereas if you take Psycho, or probably not that one because they just did like 5 seasons of Bates Motel. But if you took The Birds, or you took Vertigo, or you took Shadow of a Doubt, and you said, no, let's do a 10 episode version of that, then okay, I'm interested. How do you develop that? How do you make that bigger? How do you?
Yeah, I'm inclined to assume it's more like that as well.
Yeah, or even if it's 8 episodes, but either way, like more fleshed out. I imagine that's what they're going to do. Shadow of a Doubt would be a good one for it, actually. I can see how they would achieve that. Next up, not Universal Cable Productions, I don't think, but Sci-Fi is developing an hour-long supernatural drama series based on a novel, which seems to be all the rage right now, and has been for a while. Rage is Back is the name of it. It's set in 1987 in New York, and it sounds like it's kind of like not an alternate timeline, but it's supernatural, so it's not like, so it's probably real life New York to an extent, and then from the 80s.
Supernatural on top.
Yeah, that actually sounds really interesting. I like the sound of this. The series is set in 1987 New York during the War on Graffiti. In this world, a young graffiti crew copes with the murder of one of their members, investigating a connection to the shamans of the past and making them masters of the urban underground who use coded language and symbols in spiritual warfare.
I can see how that goes nicely with graffiti.
Yeah, the graffiti is their weapons.
Graffiti is magic, essentially.
Yes. I kind of like this idea. This is actually not a bad idea. So Sci-Fi is developing that. So this is pretty cool.
Man, Sci-Fi have got far too much stuff I'm interested in. Whereas, 3 years ago, if you told me
I know,
that.
it's just kind of insane. But because obviously they've got stuff like The Expanse and they've got all that kind of stuff. They just had Blood Drive, which is a lot of fun, and it kind of nails exactly what it's supposed to be. It doesn't feel watered down to be on Sci-Fi, which is what I thought a lot of their older stuff used to feel like. Whereas, it feels like a Sci-Fi show.
Yeah.
Even just a few years ago, even something like Killjoys, which isn't a bad show, but it does feel like, it's a Sci-Fi show. It feels like something that'd be on the Sci-Fi channel.
It does, yeah.
Same with like Dark Matter, for example. Whereas now I'm kind of trusting them. No, maybe they will do stuff that's a bit more outside the box. That'll take us on to our last news item of the week. And this was a late edition. Well, I put this in just last minute because I saw this go up before we started. So AMC is developing a series, again, based on a book. Although this book was written by David Cronenberg, which is quite interesting. The book's called Consumed. And we have one of the showrunners from Fear the Walking Dead, along with one of the producers of Lucifer, working together on this. Now, what that says about the qualities, here or there, depends how much involvement either of those had with those shows, and so on. Specifically Fear the Walking Dead, which, season 1 of that, from what I've seen of it, was pretty bad. But so they're developing this series for AMC, and here's the description. Consumed is a mind-bending psychological thriller that follows 2 journalists who set out to solve a cannibalistic murder of a controversial Parisian philosopher.
See, that sounds pretty good.
Well, David Cronenberg's a pretty edgy director for his movies. Like, his movies are pretty dark and sinister and have a real style to them. So I can imagine his writing being quite similar in that sense, where it's quite edgy.
That makes sense, yeah.
And dark, and sort of feeling like it's part of a dark world. If you've ever seen any Cronenberg movies, and I don't know if you have, you might not have.
I don't think so. Not off the top of my head.
But he's got a very sort of dark tone. He has a lot of body horror as well, which admittedly this plot doesn't sound like it lends itself to body horror, but so yeah, I'm somewhat interested in this. I mean, the people behind it,
cautiously interested.
People behind it aren't necessarily making me, light on fire with excitement, but there's potential here.
Yeah, the premise is there, which is, it's a good start.
Can I just say how insane it is? Like, we had like 10, maybe more new shows in development this week, and most of them sound at least potentially interesting.
Yeah, there's only really the one that I think that we were both kind of like,
There was that New York romance one that was,
yeah.
yeah.
That's pretty much the only one I think we were really down on, though.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of skeptical about Confederate, but like,
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that, to be honest.
it's at least a high concept thing that I can at least see where the ideas
Yeah.
are trying to do with that. But no, a lot of interesting stuff. A lot of Universal in particular had a lot of stuff there. Some good
They
science
did.
fiction ideas. Like,
And do you know what? I just remembered you missed the most important piece of news this week.
I bet this is stupid. Go on.
It's stupid as shit. But
I knew it was going to be stupid as soon as you said it that way. I was like, this is going to be stupid as shit. Go on. What is it?
So, Splatoon 2 launches this coming week, and it is getting an anime coming straight to YouTube in August. Just it's the serious news there. We're going to be trying that, Pete.
An anime based on a Nintendo game. Let me think.
But it's squid people who shoot ink at each other. Just want to let that sit in there for a second.
I'm more likely to catch up in all 6 seasons of Game of Thrones so I can join in the conversation for episode 2 of season 7. That's how likely it is that I'm going to watch this anime based on a Nintendo game.
So I'm not even sure if there's physically enough time for you to do that. Like, because you've got a couple of days.
It's still more likely. It's more likely that I will invent a time machine, go back in time, watch it all, and be on the episode 2 discussion come Monday. There's more likelihood of that happening.
Fair enough.
Yes, add it to the list. Along with Game of Thrones, I do not care for Nintendo.
Or
Typically.
anime.
Or anime, but Nintendo. I don't think anime is a surprise. Whereas Nintendo, they may not know that I don't really care about Nintendo, but I didn't really grow up with Nintendo systems, so I don't really give a shit about Mario or Zelda, or.
And this is a new
things.
IP at that.
Yeah, honestly, Splatoon, and that's the other thing. I don't like multiplayer games, so Splatoon's just.
It has single player.
Yeah, but does anyone talk about the single player?
Not really.
All the shut up then.
Just point it out. It's there.
That's like saying, "Oh, you should buy the new Call of Duty for the campaign." Oh, it's.
I will stand by some of their campaigns as being some fantastic FPS.
And the last 5 or 6 of them.
Oh, I'd have to count. Modern Warfare 3 was the last one that I thought was a great story.
That was a while ago now, because
I don't know how many
they've
that
had
was.
Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare, and they alternate between other games. So
Yeah,
that's at least 4 or
that
5
said,
years.
I'm actually excited about the new World War II story. I think that I'm down for that. So
How did we end up talking about Call of Duty? Let's stop
I
this
don't
right
know.
now.
This
Stop it right
is your
now.
fault. You brought it up.
I was compared to something else that was multiplayer and had a worthless campaign. Because typically these days, I think they do, from what I understand. Not that I try them to find out, because I don't care.
But have you ever played a Call of Duty game?
No, it was a Battlefront. I tried.
Battlefront,
Battlefield. Sorry, I played some Battlefield 3.
All right. You know, we're not into Medal of Honor.
Nah, I never touched it. Honestly, military shooters have never appealed to me.
Clearly.
It's just not. There's no lasers, no aliens. There's no.
Oh, I get it. I feel the same about, just war movies in general. Like a lot of them, they just don't do anything for me.
Everything's so grey,
Yeah.
damp looking. It's just I don't know.
You want some colour and some fun.
Something about military shooters just bore. I realised that a couple of the recent duties of being more futuristic and had spacey things in them.
Yeah, but they were shy.
As I understand it, yes, as I understand it. But I also like multiplayer, so it also negates a lot of them just right off the bat. Like
That's true.
Like I assume Battlefield 1 had a campaign, but I've never heard anyone talk about it.
No, I haven't either.
I assume it did, but
It must have done.
I never saw anyone complain there was no single player, because I've seen people complain
Well,
about
that's
that with
it.
other
Yeah,
games.
when you got to like Battlefront.
Yeah, people complained.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously with the new one coming, that's what they're hyping up, the single player story.
Hell, I complained, even though, like, even if I buy a
Never gonna
Battlefront,
buy it.
Well, no, I mean, when it's on sale for like dirt cheap, and if I heard the story was good, yeah, I'll maybe give it a go.
Fair enough.
I might enjoy the single player campaign. I might. Hey, not all games can be Naughty Dog games, okay? That's just the truth.
Yeah.
It's just the truth. Not all games can be XCOM 2 either, for that matter.
Aye, riveting story.
Doesn't matter when the gameplay's that good.
That's fair.
That's all about strategy. You have to think
It
in
is.
that game.
Too much work.
Okay, we ended up talking about video games out there for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not sure what caused that.
Oh, that was your fault.
It couldn't possibly have been something I did.
That was your fault, because I was ready to start wrapping up, and you were like, oh, there's a Splatoon anime coming.
Well, there is, and it's vital news that our audience needs to know.
It's not vital news. I mean, I didn't actually see that, like, while I was looking for news, but if I did, I would have skimmed past it. It would not have even been in. I wouldn't even have clicked on it. Because there's a lot of news items that I'll click on to see, oh, that might be of interest. Because I'll get all my tabs, I'll get them all ready, and then I'll start reading through them afterwards. That's one I would even clicked on. Because there's some that I click on and then decide not to use, because, oh, there's not actually that much in there.
So I like the idea that you did actually just scroll past this headline, but it didn't even register on your brain so low that you didn't remember doing it.
Okay, it's possible I don't remember doing it, but I'm pretty sure I didn't do it. I didn't see it. There's definitely things in the past that I've seen and went, no, that's not worthy. That's not worthy of being on the news.
Well, this is.
And
regardless of whether you think it's worthy or not, it's there.
And sometimes it's like, I bet that'll interest Connor. It's still not getting in though.
It's just down to whether or not I happen to see it.
If you happen to see it, you can bring it up. But I do all the work, so I get to make the calls. I get to make the calls on what makes it.
I guess that's fair.
If you want to start spending an hour looking through news, you can start chiming in with what I've missed.
I guess that is fair.
We usually pick our favourite episode of TV of the week, but it's kind of... I mean, I guess you have a choice because you watch Game of Thrones, so you have Peaks or Thrones to...
I'm kind of conflicted because I think it was the weakest episode of Peaks yet. And I kind of want to punish it for that almost by saying, I just want to acknowledge that it was weaker.
But is the weakest episode of Peaks
I don't know,
worse than that episode of Game of Thrones?
They're kind of on par for me because this episode of Game of Thrones, it had some moments that were definitely better than Peaks. But I don't know if as a whole episode it was. I'm really conflicted.
Well, I didn't watch that, so easy for me. Twin Peaks wins best episode of the week for me.
Yeah, screw it. I'm going to go Game of Thrones. Twin Peaks can have it when it gets another good episode. Well, not good, but another amazing episode.
That said, if it counted, I would maybe make a case for the finale of Glow. I'd maybe throw my hat in that ring.
No, that's fair.
But that's kind of a weird example because it's, obviously it all went up in the one day, and by this point it's a couple of weeks old, so it's like, does that really count? I don't know if it does.
Yeah.
It's a weird example. So hopefully next week we'll have oodles of Comic-Con news for you. Maybe not. They may have nothing really to give us, but they might have some interesting stuff. So we shall see and find out. Maybe we'll get a date for Punisher. Maybe that's the one thing we can almost hope for out of this.
Well, we go in November. Let's have a look at the dates in November.
Oh, it's definitely November.
I'm gonna go November 10th. I'm picking a Friday. I've staked one. I'm going with that one.
It will not be November 10th. That's what I'm betting. I'm picking the other three.
All right, let's see who wins. Come back next week.
The odds are in my favour. You've got a 1 in 4 chance of winning, so suck it.
Yep.
Okay, so there we go. That's from this week's news. Oh dear. So yeah, look out for the first Ozark review. We could end up reviewing the whole series. It depends if we like the first one and we want to keep going. It'll give us a lot more work. But honestly, the TV's so light right now that I'm kind of hoping we do like it because I feel like we could use the boost of new TV to watch.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because everything's on the Sunday night. That's it then.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because Peaks and Go-Thorns are both on the Sunday. We do them Monday, and then it's like we try and get some dear white people in. We've been catching up on that. We have our already cancelled with leftovers in Star Trek. We've got our movies that we've been doing. We've got a comics podcast. But in terms of TV, yeah, it's all kind of all in that one night, and then it's nothing for a week. So I'm really hoping we like this, so that we can spend like a good week or so doing the whole thing, one per day, give or take. That'd be nice.
I have been really enjoying The Leftovers, though. We just finished season 1.
We did,
for
yeah,
us.
because obviously the patrons get it a week ahead of the public. They've finished season 1. I think episode 9 just went public for the.
Yes.
We haven't recorded the week's early one for Patreon yet. That should match that. There's a good chance that won't happen, and it'll be skipping another half week. And the next one will be at the end of the weekend.
Season 1 was pretty good. I mean, I think we enjoyed it.
Yeah, it got better as it went along. The last few episodes were all pretty high caliber.
Yeah.
Made me excited to watch more, so Leftovers is pretty good. So yeah, the season 1 finale will be up for the public this weekend, so you don't have to worry about that being delayed, but it does mean that the following weekend you might be missing an episode. But hey ho. There we go. That has been this week's news. So let us know what you thought of the news item in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. We mentioned Patreon. Go over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV if you want to support the channel and everything we do here. Keep more stuff coming and give us more time to do more. But you can do that over there, and that is us. So thank you very much once again for watching. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got anything else?